Ontario Premier Doug Ford has launched his own news feed, which has drawn strong criticism. Forest fires continue to rage in northeastern Ontario. Some residents are feeling the impact of the smoke. Violence in the Zimbabwe election has left 3 dead while people still are waiting for the results. Humber News starts now. I'm Andrew Jeffrey here at the newsroom at Humber's North Campus. It's August 2nd. Here's what's making news. Hundreds of asylum seekers who are currently in Humber College residence rooms have to be out by August 9th. The federal government has agreed to pay for hotels for 450 claimants. For Mohammed and his mother Shama Ahmed Hamdan, it's another move into the unknown. The two fled Sudan and arrived in Canada from Egypt. Mohammed walks with crutches after what he described as brutal beatings in Darfur. Despite not having a home, both are grateful for the medical help they've had access to in Ontario and are hopeful for their future in Canada. The PC Party's new online content venture has been met with mixed reactions, and critics are calling this a pure example of fake news.
Since his inauguration on June 29th, Premier Ford has been off to the races, literally.
We're going to get rid of cap and trade and the carbon tax, reduce gas prices by 10 cents. We did it. We said we were going to get rid of the CEO on the board of Hydro. We did it. We said we were going to get the kids back in school at York University. We did it. And we're going to continue getting what we said we were going to do done.
From Queen's Park, I'm Lindsay Vanstone. The Premier met with Prime Minister
Ontario Premier
Trudeau.
Doug Ford's PC Party launched a new channel on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. The account claims to provide timely exclusive content on the PC government's priorities for the people of Ontario. The Ford government confirmed that the content is being paid for with taxpayer dollars. A minute-long video posted on the accounts has been met with severe backlash, calling the video PC Party propaganda. The Ontario government is defending its decision to cancel the Basic Income Pilot Project, suggesting the program discourages participants from finding work. Social Service Minister Lisa MacLeod announced on Tuesday the government would be winding down the program, which gives payments to low-income people in certain communities, but did not give a timeline of that happening.
We're also going to wind down the Ontario Basic Income Research Project, which is clearly not the answer for Ontario families. And
She said that giving people money with no strings attached doesn't put them back on track to becoming contributing members of society. The news has spurred backlash from opposition parties who say the government is cutting support for those who need it most. Canadian rock band Billy Talent will be hosting a concert at Danforth Music Hall next Saturday. Billy Talent will be joined by other musicians like City and Color and Pup to support the Greektown community in the wake of the Danforth shooting. Last month's shooting saw 10-year-old Juliana Kozis and 18-year-old Reese Fallon killed, along with 13 others injured. The concert will take place at Danforth Music Hall, which is steps away from where the gunman opened fire. The show will be on August 11th in the middle of the Taste of the Danforth Food Festival, and proceeds will be donated to the Toronto Strong Fund. 7 fires remain active in the forests of northeastern Ontario after days of efforts by the local firefighters to put it out. The fires are concentrated in 2 areas, Temiskaming and Parry Sound 33 in South Sudbury. The situation in Sudbury has significantly improved, with some rain in the region on Wednesday. Firefighters mainly relied on helicopters to get to the sites as their vehicles failed to make way into the remote locations. A total of 14 helicopters have been deployed to put out the fires, according to Ontario's Aviation, Forest Fire and Emergency Services.
There are 249 personnel assigned to this fire. That includes firefighters and also support staff. So we have, for instance, the fire is being managed by an incident management team from Alberta. We have crews from Mexico, there's crews from Ontario, and also personnel from Newfoundland as well.
The local government has already put out notice to evacuate some neighborhoods due to the fires. 2 Hamilton paramedics have been charged in connection with the death of a 19-year-old Good Samaritan who police say was killed while trying to stop an altercation on December 2nd, 2017. Yosef Al-Hasnawi was described by police as a courageous young man for trying to do the right thing. He was shot dead after he tried to help an older man who was having an altercation with 2 men outside his mosque. Witnesses from the crime scene and Al-Hasnawi's father had alleged that paramedics took too long to treat and transport Al-Hasnawi to a hospital. Now the two paramedics involved are facing criminal charges for failing to provide the necessities of life. The union representing paramedics says that defendants did all that they could. Police have yet to release the names of the two paramedics charged, but said they would have an update later today. Opposition parties have called on the Trudeau government to address the severe shortage of EpiPens in Canada. As safety concerns continue to grow, the NDP and Conservatives can't seem to agree on a long-term solution. The NDP say it's up to the Liberals to prevent shortages by threatening to take patents away from drug makers. Meanwhile, the Conservatives are suggesting the government encourage a Canadian-based supply chain. This shortage has forced pharmacies to limit how many EpiPens they provide to severely allergic patients who are being told to keep recently expired EpiPens in case of reaction. The US-based company Pfizer, who supplies Canada with its EpiPens, have blamed the shortage on inspection delays at the manufacturer. China has urged the United States to return to rationality. On Wednesday, the Trump administration upped the trade war ante by proposing a higher 25% tariff on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports. Speaking to the media at the ASEAN Foreign Ministers Summit, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that tariffs will not resolve the trade imbalances the United States say exist between the two economies. Wang urged Washington to calm down and listen to the voice of the international community. There have been no formal talks between Washington and Beijing for weeks over Trump's demands that China make fundamental changes to its policies on intellectual property, technology transfers, and subsidies for high-tech industries. Chinese shares slid on today's markets as Washington's threats of higher tariffs heightened investors' fears about the Sino-US trade war. On Tuesday, a U.S. district judge halted firearm activist company Defense Distributed from publishing blueprints for 3D printed guns. A temporary restraining order was issued against the company after the judge cited the harm these blueprints could cause to U.S. citizens. But several activist groups are reportedly using another website to distribute these blueprints, citing their own right to free speech. Regulators are worried that the plastic firearms could pose a threat as an untraceable tool used by criminals. In Canada, the federal government stated this week that 3D printed firearms are subject to the same existing firearm legislation. Canadians who print these plastic guns for personal use without a license face up to 10 years in prison, with a mandatory minimum sentence of 3 years for a first offense. 3 people have been killed in Zimbabwe's capital as soldiers and police fought with protesters during the wait for election results. The frustration was due to the delay of the new president announcement. This is the first election without Robert Mugabe on ballot. He ruled the country for 37 years until he was accused of oppression and mismanagement and stepped down under military pressure. The ZANU-PF candidate and president, Emerson Mnangagwa, tweeted today that he had been in communication with the opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa. The two discussed ways to immediately defuse the situation. On Monday, more than 5.5 million Zimbabweans voted in the election, and the results are expected to be announced later today. If no candidate wins more than half of the votes, there will be a revote on September 8th. A passenger plane crashed in Mexico. An Aeromexico plane carrying 103 people crashed in the Mexican state of Durango last Tuesday. The plane was flying from Guadalupe Victoria International Airport to Mexico City. Officials from the airport said the plane fell upon takeoff and that a heavy hailstorm was the cause of the accident. Aeromexico CEO Andre Conisa said there was no fatalities. The plane's pilot and a young girl are seriously injured. The other passengers have very light injuries. In an official statement, Aeromexico said they deeply regret the accident, while the Brazilian plane company Embraer said that it had been sent to the crash site. The Eiffel Tower is closed for a second straight day as workers strike over long visitor queues. One of the most popular tourist sites in the world has been affected by a strike over a new access policy. Staff at the Eiffel Tower walked out in a dispute over lengthening queues at the Paris landmark. According to the new system, visitors buying tickets online now use a separate elevator to climb the tower. This differs from the elevators used by visitors who buy their tickets on site. It has created exceptionally long wait times and lopsided queuing systems. Workers are demanding more flexibility in managing the tourists during the peak summer season. International heat waves are sweeping the globe, with South Korea facing record-breaking temperatures. 29 people have died due to heat stroke during an extended heat wave, with at least 15 days of temperatures reaching over 35 degrees. The sweltering heat has been plaguing South Korea since mid-July. More than 2,200 people have been hospitalized since the deadly heat wave began. The city of Seoul suffered their highest ever recorded temperature of 39.6 degrees on Wednesday. Countries around the globe have been experiencing the blistering heat this summer, as extreme weather has been troubling much of the northern hemisphere. We're going to take a quick break, but still ahead is the latest in sports. But first, Clement Go has a preview of your 3-day forecast.
Thanks, Andrew. So just like tape, it's sticky, quiet, but not humid just like the weather today. if you're heading out for a jog, it's good to keep some more water with you. I'll have more later on.